Hi, Year 12 and Year 13. Hope you're all okay this week, that you're coping with your remote learning, that you're feeling okay in yourselves. We wanted to record a pre-recorded assembly for you this week just because we've been having some technical issues on Teams with live events, and we wanted to make sure that we've spoken to you and checked in with you. What I decided to do for this week's assembly is to make it a little bit more thematic. And I know that for some of us, we're struggling a little bit with the current circumstances, struggling with not being in school in person, struggling with still being quite isolated under the current restrictions, and that not everyone's having the best of times at the minute, really. And I thought that we would focus on something quite positive that's been in the news recently, something that's provided that kind of symbol of hope for a lot of people, actually, and that we might use this to think about our current situation a little bit differently and to maybe try to have a slightly more optimistic approach as we go forward over the next couple of weeks. So, to begin with, I want you to have a look at this young woman on the screen. Hopefully, you recognize her. If you do you know who it is, what her name is? If you do you know where she is, or can you take a guess? And do you know what she's speaking about, or can you take a guess about that? Well, this young woman is Amanda Gorman, and on the 20th of January, something really important happened. The President of the United States, who was formerly President Trump, has now left the White House. And very happily for a lot of people, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were sworn in as president and vice president. So, a big day for America, both symbolically and practically. But what really stood out for a lot of people was not just the general inauguration, but was actually the performance of this woman on our screen, Amanda Gorman. Now, Amanda Gorman is the nation's first ever youth poet laureate, and she delivered a powerful poem at the inauguration that moved and touched a lot of people. A lot of Americans who she was addressing, but also a lot of people across the world, including us in the UK and in Wales. And that's because her words really spoke to people. They really resonated with people. And that's why I'd like to look at a few of her words today and think about how maybe we can take some inspiration from them. Her poem addressed the political unrest that has been going on recently in America. It dealt with a lot of despair that people have been feeling in the current climate, but it was also a poem of great hope and optimism. Just having Gorman out there speaking to the nation was significant in herself. She's the youngest person to ever have performed at inauguration at 22. She's a woman of colour, and she symbolizes a modern America in what she says and how she says it. I did try to get the full clip of her delivering her speech in this assembly, but unfortunately, that's a little bit beyond my technical capabilities. But I strongly, strongly urge you, if you haven't already, to go away straight after this and to pop her name into YouTube and to watch her speech in full. It really lifted me when I watched it last week. It really kind of inspired me, actually. And if you're looking for a little bit of a lift, I think it'd be well worth a watch for you too. So let's pick out some of, first of all, the themes that Amanda Gorman spoke about in her poem, because she talked about so much. It was such a lengthy poem. It was kind of like a combination between a poem and a speech, really. And she spoke very deeply about the American dream, that deep rooted concept in America that anybody can make a life for themselves, anybody can strive to be better with hard work and determination and grit. She spoke about the tragedy of the political unrest, especially as it kind of unraveled into some of the horrific scenes that we saw earlier in the month of January. She talked about the extra challenges posed on us as individuals and as a community from COVID-19. And she spoke about the racial issues that are still ongoing within the country in a time where we would hope we would have achieved equality for all. She talked about American history, both the good bits and the bad bits that have led us to where we are today. But she also talked about hope. which is what we must have amidst all the tragedy and many things that go wrong. She talked about patriotism and that idea of belonging. And she talked about the attributes of perseverance, not giving up when it could be so easy to do so, and of working hard to overcome challenges and to achieve something. These themes are so important. And although some of them are based in the American context, so many of them resonate with us as well in our current situation. But there are such beautiful words within Gorman's poem as well. And I wanted to pick out a few to kind of share with you to have a little think about. One of the earlier lines in her poem reads, "We ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never ending shade?" That really struck a chord with me because at the moment, with all the uncertainty and with not knowing when lockdown and remote learning is going to stretch into, it can feel like this never ending shade. It can feel like we don't know when this is going to end. And I think that's really the source of a lot of people's anxiety and worries. But the important thing is that we do keep on asking ourselves and we do keep on questioning and we do keep on looking for the light. That's part of our intuition, if you will, as humans to look for the light. And through striving to carry on looking for it, we will find it together. So I thought that was a really powerful line from her poem. Her words also read, "We've learned that quiet isn't always peace." In here, I think she was hinting at both the racial injustice that has been going on, that has been covered up for so long and now is kind of boiling to the surface, but also that we have learned to kind of live in the quiet so much more in the current circumstances surrounding COVID-19. And when things are quieter, then we maybe expect them to be peaceful. We expect to be able to allow our minds to have a rest. But this isn't always the case. Sometimes in the quiet, our mind can overthink and we can have no peace at all. Sometimes our most peaceful places are in the company of others with lots of noise and laughing and company. And that's okay to realize that. And that's okay to not like being by yourself. Another two sentences out of her poem that really struck me were, "And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it." And this kind of idea of innate perseverance, okay, this kind of feeling of being in the dark, but actually that we will rise out of it earlier than we could possibly think. And this idea of against all the odds, we do it. Somehow we do it, despite everything, despite all the challenges. We just get on with it and we do it. And that's an amazing thing that we can do as humans. So just if you're having a bad day, remember, if you can get through that day and get on to the next one, you've done it. Somehow you've done it. And the next day might turn out to be the best day. And a final line or couple of lines from a poem that I wanted to share with you was this, which is towards the end of her speech. And she says, "The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light. If only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it." And I thought this is quite powerful as well, as by allowing ourselves to have a little bit more of an optimistic viewpoint. If we can try to do that for ourselves, we do free ourselves, but it's also quite a brave thing to do because it can be so easy to kind of descend into the darkness and to just focus on the negative. But if we bravely stick our heads out there and try to be optimistic and try to be positive and try to be hopeful, then actually we can realize that own light and we can capture that own hope for ourselves. And I also like that idea at the end of being, okay, being brave enough to be the light, to be the hope. Sometimes we also might want to think about the role that we play in each other's lives and how actually we know how important it is for ourselves to have somebody positive in our life. So if we can be that positive person for other people, it could make the world a difference. So the title of that poem is also hugely important. The hill we climb. We've all got our own hills to climb. Throughout our lives, some of us will have far bigger mountains than others. Some of us are obviously born with far more privilege and opportunities. and some of us will have an easy time of it, and some of us will have moments of struggle. But we have all got these hills to climb. It's never absolute plain sailing. And at the moment, even though we might be coping with it differently, and some people might be dealing with things better than others, we are all on this same COVID hill that we're all kind of climbing together. So please remember that. Also, remember that you're never by yourself, okay? Even though sometimes you might feel extremely isolated, you never are. So make sure that you reach out to your friends, to your family, that you support one another, even if it's just in little ways, even if you're really busy in a day, but you could just send somebody a quick message or do something quick on social media or make your mum a cuppa, okay, when she's working from home. These little things where we try to connect with each other are so important. But most of all, remember that we remain to be here for you as a sixth form team. So if you need anything from any one of us, even if it's just on a one off bad day, you know you can get in touch with myself, Dr. Rowe, Mrs. Chiliano, or Mrs. Perks, and you know that we will do our best to support you. So if you're having a bad day and you just want to vent something, you think you might benefit from some more long term mentoring, you need some help organizing your workload, or you want us to speak to some of your subject teachers for you, you're having technical issues, or you might need some more access to IT that you're struggling with at home. Anything at all that you think that we can help you with, you know that all you have to do is pop us an email or get in touch with one of us on Teams, and you know that we'll be there for you. So go ahead, heads high, have a brilliant week. Keep yourselves organized. Attend all the live lessons and the catch ups that you can to keep connected with your teachers and with your peers. And remember that if you do need us, we're just here. Okay, even though it's remote, we're just here for you and we'll always be here to support you. Take care, everybody, and have a great week.